Chapter 46. Listen and repeat conversation. How long have you been in the city? We've been in the city for a week. What have you done? We've gone sightseeing every day. Have you been to any museums? We've been to all the museums. What have you attended? We've attended a lot of plays and concerts. What else have you done? We've gone up to the top of a tower. What else have you done? We've visited a big ship. What have you sent to your friends? We've sent postcards to all our friends. Have you had a good time? We've enjoyed ourselves very much. Notes. Ourselves is the reflexive pronoun of the first person plural. Reflexive pronouns, as we'll see later, follow some verbs and often have a meaning similar to the Italian reflexive form. Have you traveled by plane? Yes, we have. Have you traveled by ship? No, we haven't. Have you eaten in a French restaurant? Yes, we have. Have you eaten in an Italian restaurant? No, we haven't. Does he live in the city? No, he doesn't. He's a stranger. What doesn't he understand? He doesn't understand all the traffic regulations. What's he just done? He's just crossed the street. What color was the light? It was red. Additional note. This is an example of a negative question formed using the contracted negative form of do. When the full form of do not is used, the adverb not follows the subject. Example. What does he not understand? Should he cross the street against a red light? No, he shouldn't. Should he wait for a green light? Yes, he should. Should he cross the street at the corner? Yes, he should. Should he cross the street in the middle of the block? No, he shouldn't. Should she drive fast in traffic? No, she shouldn't. Should she drive slowly in traffic? Yes, she should. Should we obey all the traffic signs? Yes, you should. Should we ignore the traffic signs? No, you shouldn't. Note on against. In the idiomatic phrase, to cross the street against a red light, the preposition against corresponds to the expression in the presence of. Vocabulary. Against. Carefully. Cop. Country. Europe. Foreign. Foreigner. French. Illegal. In time. Italian. Lazy. Never. One way. Pedestrian. Policeman. Probably. Regulation. Ship. Sightseeing. Sign. Strange. Stranger. Tower. Traffic. Policeman. Traffic. Sign. Turn. Noun. Verbs. To cross. To enjoy oneself. To find. Someone. To go sightseeing. To go up. To have a good time. To ignore. To obey. To understand. Understood. Understood. To warn. Names. Henry. Explanations. Against. This preposition basically means in opposition to or on the opposite side of. It is generally used to indicate opposition, disagreement, or hostility between two people or of a person towards an idea, plan, etc. In this sense, it contrasts with for equals in favor of. It can also have locative meanings such as in the opposite direction to, against a surface. Example, I have nothing to say against him. Country. This noun, when used in the meaning of countryside, is always preceded by the definite article. Example, Anna's parents live in the country. Foreign/strange. These two adjectives differ in meaning. Foreign refers to a person or thing from a different country, while strange refers to something or someone unknown and therefore felt as unfamiliar or odd. The corresponding nouns are foreigner and stranger. Never. This adverb of frequency comes from the fusion of not ever. Since it already contains the negation not, it is always used in sentences where the verb is in the affirmative form. Example, Mark never drinks coffee. To enjoy. This verb has a personal construction similar to like. It is followed by the direct object of the thing that gives pleasure to the subject. Example, they enjoy music. To warn. This verb allows different constructions depending on the object of the warning. It can be expressed by a noun commonly introduced by against or of, by a verb in the ing form introduced by against, by an infinitive introduced by to, or by an object clause introduced by that, often omitted. Example, he warned us against driving too fast. Reading. The traffic policeman has just stopped Mark. Cop is another word for policeman. Mark just made an illegal left turn. The policeman probably won't fine him. He'll probably only warn him to look at the signs carefully because he's a stranger in the city. Different countries have different traffic regulations, so you have to be careful when you're driving in a strange country. For example, in some countries you always have to stop for a pedestrian. A pedestrian is a person who's walking. In other countries, you only have to stop when the pedestrian is crossing.
In some countries, you can turn right against a red light. In others, you can't. But you should always be careful. You should always obey the traffic signs. You should never ignore them. Note, cop is slang, a popular informal term used in everyday speech in various environments. In this context, just does not have a temporal meaning, but means only, simply. It's followed by the simple past, not by the present perfect. You is used impersonally here. Frequency adverbs usually come before the auxiliary to have or to be, which are considered main verbs in such cases. When two sentences have the same subject and the first verb is compound or preceded by an auxiliary, in the second clause only the subject and the auxiliary, possibly negative, are expressed. Comprehension exercise. What has the traffic policeman just done? What does cop mean? What did Mark do? Will the policeman probably fine him? What will he probably warn him? Why will he probably only warn him? What do different countries have? Why do you have to be careful when you're driving in a strange country? What does pedestrian mean? Can you turn right against a red light everywhere? Should you always obey the traffic signs? Should you ignore the traffic signs? Grammar. Must, have to, should. Affirmative. Mark, you are too lazy. You must study hard. Anna has to study hard because she's going to take her final examination. Helen, you've studied a lot this afternoon. You should rest now. The auxiliaries must, have to, should all have the basic meaning of obligation, necessity, or advisability. Although they all correspond to the verb must, they have different shades of meaning. A. Must indicates an obligation imposed directly by the speaker, an order given by the person speaking to the listener. B. Have to indicates a necessity imposed by the situation or by circumstances. C. Should expresses more a piece of advice than a necessity, something that is advisable or recommended rather than ordered. While must and have to correspond to indicative forms of obligation, should, followed by the present infinitive, corresponds to the conditional present. Thus, the sentence, "Helen, you should rest now," means, "Helen, you ought to rest now." Should follows the same rules as all English auxiliaries. Should/shouldn't, adverbs of frequency. Shouldn't, negative. Sally, you shouldn't make so much noise while your brother is studying. Her children are very young. She shouldn't leave them alone in the house. The negative form of the auxiliary should is should not, commonly contracted as shouldn't. The form is used to indicate that the action referred to is not advisable or appropriate. Shouldn't differs from the construction with have to. The latter means that something is not necessary, while shouldn't means that it is not advisable. Should, yes/no. Questions, short answers. Should I send him a letter? Yes, you should. No, you shouldn't. Should they leave tomorrow? Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. The interrogative form of should is obtained by the normal inversion auxiliary subject. To yes/no questions with should, we answer using short affirmative or negative answers, as with other auxiliaries. In negative short answers, the contracted form shouldn't is normally used. Let's review together. Adverbs of frequency. Mark always gets home late for dinner. Father usually gets home late for dinner. Anna often gets home late for dinner. Mother sometimes gets home late for dinner. Jack never gets home late for dinner. The table shows frequency adverbs in descending order, from always, maximum frequency, to never, no frequency. They are used in answers to questions such as how often, when no exact time interval is specified. They differ from expressions like every day, twice a week, once a month, etc. As for their position, frequency adverbs precede action verbs, coming between the subject and the verb. Follow auxiliary verbs, especially the first one in compound tenses. Comprehension exercise. Answers. 1. He's just stopped Mark. 2. Cop means policeman. 3. He made an illegal left turn. 4. No, he won't. 5. He'll probably warn him to look at the signs carefully. 6. Because he's a stranger in the country. 7. Different countries have different traffic regulations. 8. Because different countries have different traffic regulations. 9. Pedestrian means a person who's walking. 10. No, you can't. 11. Yes, you should. 12. No, you shouldn't.